what have you. But thank you for coming.
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. I'm walking with my mom. We walked to the store. I just noticed what time it was. I'm sorry. We
Okay.
never walk
Okay.
That's
anywhere.
okay.
Hi, Mom.
That's okay. Hey, Mom. We glad to have you with us. Hey, darling. Oh, oh, mommy.
Yeah.
So
Oh.
you haven't missed anything. We literally were just about to start getting into this particular lesson. So
Mm-hmm.
this
Okay.
the time frame that we're talking about, we're in the book of Genesis. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
first
Okay.
book of the Bible, and
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
we call this a time of patriarch. I say patriarchy, cousin likes patriarch. However, it's the same. So basically, this is the time where God would speak to the head of like the households or the head of this particular community, and then that's how
Mhm.
this person would hand down the instructions from God. So this is known as the patriarch period. It lasted
Mm-hmm.
about 1,500 years, and
Mm-hmm.
right now we're about to get into like we're fixing to get into Noah, but we just got finished talking about Cain and Abel, and what
Mm-hmm.
happened. And now we're fixing to get into going to the lineage part. So this is kind of
Mm-hmm.
where we are. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So last class we were also talking about how Cain and Abel even got into like the discussion that they got into. The Lord was actually pleased with the sacrifice that Abel gave because Abel actually gave the correct sacrifice, and
Mm-hmm.
Cain was jealous and he was upset.
Mm-hmm.
Because his sacrifice was not accepted. And what's really funny
Mm-hmm.
about this particular incident, instead of him just, relaxing and understanding that, hey, you can try again, the next sacrifice, he actually let it take over him. And that's what the Lord, is wanting us to kind of hone in on. If we allow jealousy to fester, it can take you over. It can overtake you to the point to where you do things that are not, normal to yourself.
Mhm.
And so that's what happened. And that's why the Lord was talking to Cain the way that he was talking to him. He was explaining to him, why are you so upset? Why are you letting this you in this way? And so, instead of him taking a moment to kind of think about it, he went with his feelings. And so this teaches us a lot about feelings and emotions. We are the type of creatures that, if we rely on our feelings and emotions, they can
Yeah.
oftentimes steer us wrong. And so he's trying to show us in this lesson here, that's
Yeah.
not.
That's what makes us human. Our
Hmm.
feelings.
Yes, that's right. That's right. God has the final say. So if we actually focus on what the Lord says, He's not going to steer us wrong. But when we try to rely on ourselves, that's where we go wrong. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And so, therefore, there was a punishment. So we learned last class that anytime that you break God's law, that then there's a punishment that has to take place. And so that's what happened when the first murder happened. So when Cain slew his brother for no reason at all, you know, uh, God saw that. And what's really profound about this is, God told Cain, listen, I know what you did. And it's not like God, when it was happening, God was like, I'm looking at you now. No, he let it happen. And he said, okay, I know what you did. So that also lets us know about God's omnipresence. God is everywhere at all times. You know what I'm saying? That's his power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that helps us to understand his deity. Okay. So knowing that he can see you and knowing that he knows your thought process on the inside, you know what I'm saying? But he's not taking heed. And so that's what the Lord tells us. Listen, we have free will. It's up to us to either choose to obey what God says or choose not to obey what God says and suffer the consequences. So this whole lesson is telling us about what happens when we don't listen to God and we let our feelings and emotions rule, and then we get into trouble and we need help. Because that's the gist of what's going on here. Okay. All right. So then the punishment was, for Cain to be cursed, from that land, and he had to, because God cannot have sin on him at all. So he was like, okay, your mother and your father, they have been over here dwelling in this land. They, made it a really nice land. You can't stay here. Okay. So he had to go. So one thing that we do know is this. When the Lord kicked him out, he had to go to the east side. So wherever the mother and the father were, they were on the opposite end. Okay, so now Cain is going to a place that is desolate. The ground, needs to be tilled. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard for him. Okay, all right, and so that's what.
I got a question. I'm sorry.
I'll go ahead.
Um, so when the whole I understand the Cain and Abel story. When Satan decided that he wanted to get an army and he got sent down. This didn't happen during the patriarch period, because if Satan was in the Garden of Eden, he had already decided. I'm saying, what's the timeline with that?
Yeah. You're right. You're actually right. That is another lesson that I teach on too. So you're absolutely correct, because we find that story in the book of Revelation, and we find it in another place as well. But the gist of it is just like you said. When Satan and the other angels defected in heaven, we do know that this had to take place, before the Garden of Eden, because the Lord said in the book of Revelation that you cannot stay here. So the place that I'm going to send you is the earth. Okay, and then the next thing that we know is that when the on the on the sixth day, when man was created and woman was created, that's when we see get into the deal with the serpent and take over him, and then that's where the transgression happened. So we do have a time frame. So you're absolutely right. Now I can't say how many years before the earth, that I don't know. I don't think man knows, because that's not what God indicates. But we know that whatever happened, it had to happen after, before the Garden of Eden, because he was already in place. So good.
Right. Yeah, I was just wondering, because I always ask that question.
That's a good question. I used to ask that question too. That's a real good question. Any more that you got?
Because I do. I study it. So if you make it make sense, then we can keep rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm here for it. I love it. Yes. Yeah. But here's the thing. Now here's what I can learn about God, or know about God rather. Like he says in his word, he's always going to make a way, for us to escape. You know what I'm saying? So because he understands his creation, he understands that we're fallible. We make mistakes and things of that nature. So instead of him just killing, Adam and Eve, or killing Cain, or whatever the case may be, he gave them a punishment. So that's basically where we're at. So his punishment was, okay, your life is going to be harder now. You just made your life harder. Okay, so now you got to go over here by yourself, and you got to get busy. So that's what he's doing. Now, understand this, like I was saying in the last class, the way that the Bible reads, it's not giving us a time frame. So I'm so glad that Indigo just said what they said, because it could have been years. It could have been decades. You know what I'm saying? That Cain was over here by himself. We don't necessarily know the exact time frame, but what we do know that is he was over there so long that his relatives started to move into that area. Okay, so like I always say, it could have been the equivalent of, like, if we want to put it in today's terms, if Adam and Eve were in California and he was actually in Georgia, it may take 10 years, 20 years for them to start, migrating all the way here. What we do know is when they did start to come and move by him, that's when he found a wife. And that's when he had a son named Enoch. And that's when he named the city after his son. It's not that there were other people that God had created. That's not it. Because the Bible tells us differently. That is not how that works. The only people that God created were Adam and Eve. Okay.
Yeah, because I had to get the book of Enoch from the library straight, because it wasn't I could find it in the Bible.
Yes, that and the Apocrypha. If you've ever read the Apocrypha, I always tell people, I always say, look, eat the meat and leave the bones, because I can't say that it's all fictitious, because it's not. It does have some truths, but a lot of the parts of the Apocrypha, they contradict Bible. So that's why they're not inspired. You understand? You can use that for like secular history.
It's called Apocrypha.
Yeah, the Apocrypha. Yep, I do a lesson on that one too, and I can send it to you if you want to dive into. That's where the book of Enoch is. Basically
Mhm.
that's where it comes from, and that comes from the Septuagint. The Septuagint is just the Greek translation of this same Hebrew Bible, and that's where the
Yeah,
apocrypha was introduced. Put like that.
yeah, because I heard that the Apocrypha is like a history book. You know how we get taught history in school?
Hmm.
Some of it be true, some of it don't
Yes,
be true.
yes,
So
yeah,
that's what
exactly.
I heard that the Apocrypha is like, but it wasn't
Great.
inspired
Yes,
by
uh huh,
God, but it was true events that was recorded
yeah.
by me.
That's right. If you treat it as that, then yes, you can get certain things from it, to know like what was going on at this time frame and that
Mhm,
and that. But don't treat it like it's sacred or holy because
mhm,
it's not Holy Spirit inspired. And actually,
right.
those were men, with no education, who actually wrote that. You understand? So they're writing off of their eyewitness accounts. And as you know, sometimes in history, somebody's eyewitness account, by the time it
Mhm.
gets to like another generation, certain things could have changed. You understand what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
of fallacy in the apocrypha, that contradicts the Bible. And I can tell you a few things, in the other lesson that I teach on that one. But in any
Yeah,
event,
that's just like when I read it, because if you ever read the Quran,
yes,
it tells you about the birth of Jesus and Mary and the
Mhm,
angels and stuff like
yes,
that, but it's interpreted very different.
it is. And I've actually read the Quran and those surahs. And I'm gonna tell you this, Indigo. I don't know if you knew this, but did you know that the writer of the Quran was not Muhammad? It was actually
Yeah.
his, and Muhammad could not read or write. So let me ask you this: if I have scribes that are writing what I think they're saying, what I'm saying,
Uh huh.
how can I confirm that they're writing what I'm saying when I can't read or write?
Right. Right. You absolutely right.
Okay, and that's the question that I have always asked Muslims, because I
mhm,
studied the Muslim religion as well. And nobody can really understand that. They just keep saying, okay, it's faith, this and then the third, but that's not enough, for my life. If I'm gonna stake my life on something, it's got to be something
mhm,
firm. And
Yeah,
mhm,
I'm not gonna lie. The farthest I got was Al Baqarah and the cow, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go back
mhm.
to the recovery Bible.